You are listening to Bedtime Dreamy Tales. Please make sure you have subscribed to our channel for new story. Story title, The Good Bargain. Once upon a time, in a land far away, lived a clever yet somewhat naive farmer. He had worked his fields under the golden sun and raised his animals with care. One morning, deciding it was time to sell his old cow, he led her to the market. After much haggling and banter, he sold her for 7 shiny silver coins, a fair price for the time. On his way home, with the jingle of coins in his pocket, he passed by a pond where frogs croaked melodiously. Their chorus sounded like quack, 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 which, to the farmer's amusement and later annoyance, seemed to echo the count of 8. Silly creatures, he muttered to himself, don't you know, it's 7, not 8. Driven by a mix of amusement and a need to correct what he perceived as a factual error, he approached the pond. Foolish frogs, he proclaimed loudly, hoping to educate the amphibians. It was 7 silver coins, not 8. But the frogs, unbothered by the farmer's correction, continued their croaking, relentless and unfazed. In a mix of frustration and stubbornness, the farmer took out his coins and began counting them aloud, hoping to prove his point to the frogs. Despite his efforts, the frogs remained indifferent, their chorus unchanged. In a fit of anger and perhaps a touch of folly, he threw the coins into the pond, challenging the frogs to count them themselves. Nightfall found him still by the pond, hoping vainly for the frogs to return his coins. They never did. Not long after, our farmer, undeterred by his previous loss, bought another cow, this time planning to butcher it for a greater profit. He calculated that not only would he regain the value of 2 cows, but he'd also gain a cowhide for free. With his cart laden with fresh meat, he headed towards the city, only to be stopped at the gates by a pack of dogs led by a large wolfhound. The wolfhound, wise and commanding, among the canines, circled the meat, barking with an authority that seemed to speak directly to the farmer. The farmer, understanding the unspoken demand but unwilling to part with his goods for free, tried to negotiate. Yes, I know what you want, he said, but if I give you the meat, what will become of me? The wolfhound's only reply was more barking, persistent and demanding. In a moment of desperation or perhaps cleverness, the farmer made a deal with the wolfhound. All right, if you insist on having it, you can keep the meat, but remember, you owe me for it, and I expect payment within 3 days. With that, he left the meat and hurried home, leaving the debt to the leader of the pack. 3 days passed, and no one came to settle the debt. Frustrated and feeling cheated, the farmer went to the butcher, expecting payment for the meat he believed the wolfhound had delivered. The butcher, confused and then angry at such an absurd claim, chased the farmer away with a broom. With nowhere else to turn, the farmer, driven by a sense of injustice, took his case to the king's court. There, amidst the opulence and the court's intrigued audience, he recounted his tale. From the stubborn frogs to the deceitful dogs and the unyielding butcher, his story unfolded, much to the amusement of the princess and the bemusement of the king. The king, unable to grant justice for such peculiar grievances, found a different way to reward the farmer's entertaining tale. Moved by the laughter his story had brought to his daughter, he offered the farmer a unique prize, his daughter's hand in marriage. However, the farmer, ever practical and loyal to his wife at home, declined the royal offer, sparking even more laughter and a different kind of admiration from the king. In lieu of marriage, the king offered a consolation, a visit to the royal treasury to take as much money as he wished. The farmer, skeptical but intrigued, accepted and filled his pockets with gold. As the farmer counted his new fortune at an end, a Jew overheard him complaining about the king's method of reward. Seeing an opportunity, the Jew offered to exchange the large coins for smaller ones, easier to manage and count. The farmer, thinking ahead, agreed, but with a twist. He involved the royal guard and the Jew in a complex scheme of promises and debts, essentially selling the future reward for immediate smaller gains. 3 days later, before the king, the farmer cleverly deflected blame for the missing coins onto the guard and the Jew, who both faced the king's wrath in his stead. The guard, familiar with the sting of punishment, took his licks with stoic resignation, while the Jew lamented the harsh reality of his heavy silver coins turning into nothing more than a painful lesson. The king, amused by the farmer's wit and cunning, couldn't help but laugh at the turn of events. The farmer's cleverness had turned a potentially disastrous situation into a comedic triumph. In recognition of the farmer's shrewdness and to make amends for the misunderstanding, the king offered a genuine reward this time. Since you've already lost what was promised, The king declared, "I invite you to my treasury. Take what you feel is your due." With a nod and a smile, the farmer accepted the king's offer. He filled his pockets with gold, not from a sense of greed, but with the feeling of satisfaction at having navigated the treacherous waters of court intrigue and emerged not only unscathed but enriched. As he left the palace, a plan formed in his mind, not for revenge or to further his gains, but to share his tale. The farmer knew the value of a good story and the laughter it could bring. And so, with his pockets heavy and his heart light, he made his way home, pondering the curious adventures that had befallen him. From frogs that wouldn't listen to dogs that couldn't pay, a butcher who wouldn't believe, and a king who found humor in the mundane. Back at his farm, his tale became a legend, a story told and retold, bringing smiles and laughter to all who heard it. The farmer, once a simple man of the soil, had become a master storyteller, his adventures a testament to the unpredictable twists of fate and the enduring human spirit. And so, the farmer's good bargain was not in the coins he tossed or the meat he traded, but in the stories he lived and shared. For in the end, it was not wealth or material goods that brought him joy, but the laughter and lessons of a life well lived, a reminder to all of the value of wit, wisdom, and the unexpected riches of a good tale. If you like this story, please give this video a like and comment below with your thoughts. See you in the next story.